This podcast is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The content shared is not a substitute for professional medical, mental health, legal, or financial advice. Please consult a qualified professional for personalized guidance or treatment. By listening, you acknowledge that the hosts and guests are not responsible for any decisions or actions you take based on this content.
Feel like a grouch, go beyond the couch. Share your confessions on the Aurora Sessions.
Hello, Aurora Healing Crew. Welcome to the Aurora Sessions Beyond the Couch, where we take the stressors that come up in session and bring them into conversation beyond the couch. This is the space where real talk meets real life. So, I wanted to start with your brother. And the other part of your story that really hit home, because a lot of people have families with substance abuse issues, and you mentioned that your brother had passed away, which is really hard. So can you, and also other things, like you said that your mom picked your brother,
Right.
and how does that leave you feeling? So a loaded question. So first, what was your relationship like with your brother when you were living with your grandmother?
So when we were younger, it was very playful. You know, he would come over all the time. I just never saw my parents. They would drop him off for the day. We would hang out, go to the beach, all kinds of stuff. So we were closer when we were kids. And then as we grew up and as I moved in, it was kind of more of an adversarial relationship because I saw him surrounding himself with some questionable characters that were all into the drug and party scene, and that was just not me, right? I remember spending my weekends on a train, or ultimately when I would go on to work at TV 40 as a 17-year-old. So I was very career driven. He wasn't, and it's a shame because he was a smart kid, very, very intelligent, just didn't use his intelligence for good purposes. So he started off with weed is stuff that, a lot of kids get into, but it became a lot more than that. He started dealing it, and then he graduated onto the harder stuff. I remember, after he graduated high school, that same group of kids was then getting into heroin and, hard pills and that kind of stuff. So the addiction gene runs in my family. I know that 100%, and that's why I always stayed away from alcohol and all that stuff. I never wanted to put myself in that position.
Yeah, that's actually one of my questions later on, but with your brother, you also talk about, and a lot of families, a lot of what we talk about in therapy is setting boundaries. And with family, especially with addiction, it's hard because when do you say no, it's tough love, and when do you say, you know what, they don't have anybody,
Sure.
let me take them in. And you picked many different forms of that. Can you explain? And then up until he
Yeah,
passed?
so he came to me a few different times, and he would tell me, "Look, I want to get clean." I put him through rehab several different times, and he got really good. He had a job. He was selling cars. He was selling solar. He had his own apartment in Ventnor for a little bit, and I was proud of him. And then he relapsed. It got to a point where when he was getting back up on his feet, I would never give him cash, but I would give him, grocery store gift cards. And I would say, look, I'll buy you groceries. I'm not going to give you any money because of where I feared that would go. Put him through rehab a second time, and he came out okay, and then he just continued to go through the same cycle. And it was, I want to say, Memorial Day weekend or some holiday weekend in the summer, actually probably somewhere in middle summer. But my husband and I went to Rehoboth for the first time ever. and I get a call in the middle of the night from my uncle telling me that he had overdosed. And that weighed heavily on me because a few days prior to that, he called me again. And he's like, look, this time I'm for real. I really want to get my life on track. And I refused to help him that time because I told him, look, I want to help you, but at the same time, multiple times in the past, you've just said you were going to do this, you were good for a little bit, and then you just went back. And I, to this day, still think, it's the what ifs. And I think, all right, what if I did help him that time? And it was just before our wedding too. But it's a shame because I know what kind of potential he could have had, and he couldn't get over that horrible world of addiction, and it just took him.
Yeah. One of the things that we say, one of the things that people who go to do the 12 steps, they say, if you continue, there's only 3 roads: institutions, prison, or death.
Right.
So I heard Preston and Steve say it to you as well,
Yep.
that you never know, and it probably would have happened anyway.
You're right.
And it's hard.
It really is. And I have talked to a lot of people that have gone through the journey themselves, and they've reached out to me and told me that, if it wasn't for an experience that they had, it was a near-death experience, and that was the thing that kind of just catapulted them into recovery, they would have just gone on to one of those 3 paths. I don't think he ever had that. Unfortunately, it just got the last time he did it, it was too much, and that was it. But I would love to see what he could have become if it was an alternate timeline.
And we call that secondary grief. So primary grief is when the person dies, you lose that person. The secondary grief is all the what ifs and the almost like fantasy of what could have been.
Right.
So you said that with the family history, you stay sober, you don't drink. That's when all your middle-aged moms were like, what? Like, how do you not drink? But so how, because especially in this industry, when you're going out, you were just at a gala here yesterday, because that's one of the hardest things that we try to teach in therapy is how to cope with socializing.
Right.
Because you don't want to feel like the weirdo, the nerd, not drinking. How do you cope with that? What is your little tip?
So it's funny. I am what you would call an introverted extrovert. So for what I do, I have to be very outgoing. And I will talk to a room of 30,000 people. I'll go to a stadium and talk. That doesn't bother me. I thrive off of that because that's what I do. But you put me in a social setting with people my own age, at a bar, it is the worst nightmare for me. So, and I feel bad because my husband is somebody that loves to socialize and hang out at the clubs, and he doesn't get to do it a lot, so he wants me to be a part of it. And I build up that social anxiety because I just keep thinking I'm just going to stand in the corner, awkward on my phone, going through weather models, and that's kind of like my my safe space, my blanket, right? But every now and then I'll go because I want to support him. But trying to, like, I know sometimes I must come off as difficult. Like I don't want to do anything that he wants to do. And that's not the truth. It's just inside, it's this anxiety that builds up. Like I talk about 3 things in life. It's weather, it's politics, and trains. And that's it. So like trying to find people that will talk about that stuff is very difficult. In my age bracket. So when I go to big events like the gala last night, I tend to attach myself to one person. Luckily, my good friend Tim was with us, and he also kind of suffers from social anxiety. So we're just two anxious bundles of joy together, just gravitating around
Sounds
the
like
gala.
a good time.
It was great. We had
Yeah.
a wonderful time. But you know what? Not drinking and that kind of stuff. I'm also super cheap. So I go out, I have dinner, and I only have to worry about paying for the food because the alcohol gets really expensive. And,
Yes.
just water's free.
So it sounds like you don't get the want to fit in. Like
Oh,
the
no, I
FOMO.
don't care.
Yeah.
In fact, I am such an obstinate person. I will purposely do the opposite of what everybody else
Right.
wants. That's never been a problem. I don't care about fitting in.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just the way
Okay.
it is.
So with all of that, you also talk about, so from 13, at what age did you move out?
The day I turned 18.
18.
Yeah,
Okay.
I found a Craigslist listing
Okay.
for a mother-in-law suite in Galloway,
Okay.
and I met with the owner. I loved her; she was great, and I didn't even say anything. I just moved out. I quietly left and never came back, and never looked back.
So that's 5 years
Yeah.
of living in that insanely sadistic, abusive
Yeah.
household. You worked, you thrived, you found your own, drug of choice per
Sure.
se, which is success. How did you? So in the book, of course, I'm like digging. Did you ever go to therapy?
No.
Okay.
The closest thing I had to it was recently
Okay.
to get diagnosed with ADHD.
Okay.
And I am so anti like everything. Like I never wanted to take pills for anything. And then I was convinced that this thing called Vyvanse was going to help, but like a very low dose, and it's not habit forming. I'm like, all right, I'll try it. It does work to some extent. But talking to the psychiatrist, they're the ones that, I felt like I was telling him stuff I've never told anybody. It was just like having a conversation. It was a very nice guy. But no, aside from that, never sought it out because I've always been that person who has built up walls, and I've been very good at projecting everything is perfectly fine, but internally, you're kind of melting down sometimes. But being in a situation as I was growing up, it was fight or flight, and I always chose to fight and not really let anybody in on what was going on because I figured I can just handle it all on my own.
So, and one of the things is not everybody, needs therapy. We don't force therapy on everybody. But it's rare that somebody could come out of that situation, be this successful without any therapy.
Well, I appreciate that, but it's just been one necessity because nobody's going to take care of you. You have to do it on your own. But two, I've been fortunate to surround myself with people that are very supportive. And I learned as I got older that you can basically just build your own family. So that white picket fence idea that I had growing up, I've been able to build my own family now and provide that for myself.
So that is fantastic, and I'm glad. But just so everybody else knows that, most, and there's nothing wrong with getting therapy, and you know where
Yeah,
I am.
absolutely.
I wouldn't be your therapist, by the way, but not because you're a difficult person, but it
Now
was
she's
just,
called me difficult.
it's just a conflict of interest. So I'd give you to somebody I don't like. No, I'm kidding.
Wow.
I'm kidding. Okay. I'm kidding. Okay. So do you still talk to your parents? Are they still alive?
So my mother kind of up and left one day. She moved up to Vermont and left my father in the dust. My father's a good guy. I never had a problem with him. He was always supportive of me. just he wasn't around a whole lot. He was always working. He's disabled. Always did his best to provide. So zero issues with him whatsoever. We've actually built a closer relationship over the years since she left, because he has some heart issues. He's only 55, but you're still getting a little bit older, and he has some health issues that need to be looked after. So of course I feel like it's incumbent upon me to help out there. So I talk to him all the time. He texts me complaining about the world, and
I love
it's
that.
nice I can
Yeah.
complain right back. But my mother, she will literally only contact me when she wants something. I remember maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I wrote her a letter around Christmas, and I kind of laid it all out. And I said, look, I forgive you. I would like to build some kind of relationship. And for a few months, I thought that maybe things were on a good trajectory, and then it went downhill again. With the insults, and then she'll contact me if she wants a Christmas present or a Mother's Day present, and then she'll just send me the link of, oh, this is what I want. And then she'll send me a litany of just things, and then she's jealous because if I don't get her what she wants, she'll complain that, oh, it must be nice to live in a fancy house and have all this stuff. Whereas my father, he doesn't have 2 pennies to his name. Never asks me for anything. I go out of my way to help him with certain things, but I guess it's an ego thing. He doesn't want anything, so I have to force him. I'm like, a few months ago, I look at his shoes. I'm like, you need new sneakers. I'm going to go take you to get new sneakers right now. And I got him 2 pairs, and he hated that. But I know he's proud, and he talks about it all the time. He'll go to like the doctor's office, and they'll say, oh, I watch the weather, and they'll ask, well, who do you watch for the weather? And then they'll say me, and he's like, oh, that's my son. And so that's nice. But I unfortunately don't think I'll ever have a relationship with her because of stuff, that her demons that she never faced.
And that was really nice for your own, I guess, closure to write that letter to your mom. And the one thing that I learned about forgiveness is that it's not, I remember the moment I felt like, oh my gosh, I forgive this person. And I was so excited that like, oh, I could finally be free of this anger. But it's a process because you get triggered again, like
Right.
when she like asks for something else or, I'm glad you also have a relationship with your dad because that probably helps heal some childhood
Sure,
stuff.
100%.
So, as far as the weather, you started enjoying the weather or researching the weather because you were afraid of storms.
Yeah.
What advice do you have to parents who have children who are afraid? We had a really bad thunderstorm the other night. What advice do you have for parents for their children?
If they have an interest, foster that interest. Education is the most important thing in life. The more you understand about something, the less afraid you are. I always put it in a way non-weather related when I go visit schools. Kids getting into middle school, high school, they start studying algebra. And at first glance, it's like it's a foreign language, solving for X on these gigantic equations, and it looks scary. But when your teachers walk you through that process of how it works, it's not scary anymore. So it's like everything else in life. You're confronted with a problem that you need to solve, and once you understand the process to solve, then it becomes just another everyday occurrence. So weather anxiety is a huge issue, and I hear it all the time. Like today, I'm posting about severe weather potential over the next couple of days and tornado risk. I had people say, oh, thunderstorms are no big deal, that's all hyped out of proportion, blah, blah, blah. And then you go back at them and say, well, tell that to the people in Mullica Hill and Mantua Township that lost their homes and had severe damage to their property. So there's always the macho men out there that beat their chest, but it is a real thing that I try to quell the concerns of people, and that's always through education. But if you're a parent that has a child that's afraid of this stuff, find books that explain it to them, and explain that being impacted by severe weather, specifically in your area, in your backyard, is very, very rare.
That's very similar to cognitive behavioral therapy, because the first part of CBT is education.
Sure.
So when we can label feelings and we can identify what our triggers are,
Right.
that helps a lot with, then you can take the steps to cope with them. So let's see here. A lot of the times, or just this morning, we had a staff meeting, and I always lead the staff meeting with practice what you preach.
Sure.
So we talk about what we do for self-care, because in this industry, we're giving, so we need to take care of ourselves. What do you do for self-care?
Gym. Almost to the point of I get very pissy if I don't get to the gym for a couple days, like with the snowstorm. January and February were horrible because I have a regimen. We do Orange Theory Fitness twice a week because you're not making me do cardio on my own. It's just not happening. I love to lift, but I think exercising is huge. My husband and I are both outdoors people. We'll go hiking, just being immersed out there. But I mean, honestly, my career and weather is also my hobby. So I find it therapeutic by looking at weather models and all that. And then, of course, sometimes when I have the time, I go up into my train room and start moving things around and pretending I'm a kid again.
I haven't seen your pictures of your train room.
I know, a lot of people haven't. I have to start sharing that
Yeah.
stuff again.
Okay, so it's not a secret?
No,
Okay.
not at all.
Okay, good. So this week, can you post?
I will.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
That's okay. All right, so you're an Eagles fan?
Yes.
Yes. This is part, and so sorry, but that was part of why I thought like you were straight. Not because you're an Eagles fan, but because you were into football. I know, I'm the worst. Okay.
Wow.
I know, okay. So, this season, what do you think the Eagles need to do to dominate?
Am I too gay to answer that?
No, I am too straight to understand whatever answer that you're going to give. I'm just pretending.
No. Look,
Yeah.
I think they have tremendous talent on both sides of the ball. I think Jalen gets way too much criticism. He is a tremendous player, and I will never understand the hate. If he had the weapons that McNabb had, you would have multiple Super Bowl wins. But he's been to the Super Bowl, twice, right? Yeah, twice. Won once and 3 times. What's it? I forget, but twice. Yeah, twice.
Okay.
But I think they need to get rid of A.J. Brown. I think he's a drama queen, and it reminds me, again, tremendous athlete, but reminds me of T.O. Back in the day.
See, I'm so proud of myself. All the players you've mentioned, I know. I mean, not personally, but
you do?
who you're talking
Wow.
about. I know.
But no,
I know Nor'easter Nick, and that's pretty cool.
I think, if you kind of replace him, I know that there's a lot of cap space that you need a great deal to be able to get rid of him. But the team has grit. I think getting rid of Kevin Patullo was huge because I could go out there and give a better scheme than he could. It was just the same thing over and over again. They became so predictable. So this year is going to be really telling to see if it is that. or if it is a Nick Sirianni problem and he just got lucky, a
Don't
couple
blame Nick.
seasons. I love Nick.
I love my
but,
Knicks, so
yeah,
Nick is fine. I like the way he coaches.
Yeah.
Because I know him. But so, final question, and then we'll do question and answer. If Bebe was here, sitting in the audience tonight, what do you think she'd be most proud of?
I think that she would be proud that I carried through with my dreams. Growing up, her being an older Jewish woman, she wanted me before she knew that I really was obsessed with weather. It's going to sound very stereotypical, but she wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer. And I hope I didn't disappoint, but I think she'd be proud that I was able to take an idea and a dream at 6 years old and turn it into a company that is growing, and now we're recognized nationally. So taking the stuff that she instilled in me, the determination and the ability to grow up quickly and use all of that to my advantage in the face of adversity, I think that would matter a lot to her.
I think we are all very proud of you.
Well,
for
thank
doing
you.
all of that.
I appreciate it. And thanks so much for having me.
Yes. So we'll take a few questions from the audience, and there'll be some goodies to hand out.
If we can
Goodies.
just
Yes.
Yay.
So, hello, Nick. So, throughout your book, you talk about how you turn something that scared you, which is storms, into your life's work. What's one way that people can start turning their own fears into strengths?
That's a great question. I think when you recognize what you're afraid of, and again, it just goes back to the education question or the answer. When you understand why something makes you so afraid, you have to kind of like turn it on its head and realize, okay, I'm afraid of this because X, Y, and Z, but one, can it hurt me? If the answer is no, then all right, let me find a way to use this to my advantage. There's a lot of things that scare us, right? There are some things that scare us so much that we're never going to allow ourselves to overcome it. Like, I'm terrified of needles. And to this day, I have an entire process when I go get blood work done every year for our checkups. I have to put numbing cream on my arm. I have to do some push-ups. Make sure the vein is out. It's ridiculous, and I'm 34 years old. But there's a lot of things in life that are you can accomplish not being afraid of, but it's just looking deep within you and figuring out why you're afraid of something and then trying to overcome that fear and maybe turning it into a positive. I think that can, be done easily. So thank you for the question.
Hi, Nick. I just wanted to know how you dealt with the ADHD in school with no meds. Like, how did you make your grades? How did you study? How did you get through all of that, not being on any meds, like all through school? Because I deal with that with my kids.
Well, Brenda, see, I remember names.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Brenda is a new fan, so I appreciate you coming out here tonight. So what's crazy is I never studied. I had kind of like a photographic memory, and I was the quintessential nerd. And I would always sit at the front of the class, and I would participate. I would answer my question to the point where my teachers would be like, okay, what's the answer? I just loved school. I absolutely loved it. And I graduated, I was third or fourth in my class. It came naturally. But I have a bigger issue today in adulthood when I'm working on team projects and, it's recognizing your weaknesses and putting people in those positions that can perform those tasks. Just kind of relating it to business. As the business has grown, I've realized that I can't possibly do everything on my own. It's just not going to happen. So I've hired people. I've surrounded myself with people that are very good at organization and just a plethora of different things. And that is how we're able to grow and expand now. But in school, no, I'm very thankful. I don't have a real answer for that because that wasn't an issue for me. I loved it and I looked forward to going to school because I think it was my outlet. And I poured so much time and attention into my studies without studying that it all worked out and I just loved it. So, great question. Yeah.
So that's kind of my issue. Like when you have a kid that has the ADHD, like getting them up and out in the morning.
Yeah.
If that's not their thing, like what does a parent do to facilitate that? Because a lot of times they don't keep conventional hours. It's not 10 o'clock bedtime up at
Sure.
6, it's a lot of times they're up at night and things like that. Doesn't seem to be your issue, but like because you love school. What if you have a kid that doesn't?
So maybe it's setting up a reward system. And if you do this, little Johnny, if you do this, we're going to have, at the end of the week, here's your prize, here's your reward. I find that, humans are motivated by prizes or something. So maybe it's just setting something up like that. Maybe you're going to go see a movie on Friday if you do all of this all week. It's worth trying at least. I think
I love that you're
I would be
getting
motivated.
all the
I just
DARPA
want to.
I know, right?
I did that. I did that.
Hi, Nick. What is advice that you would have to someone that's trying to start their weather company like I am and be just as successful as you are?
Never give up. So, look, here's the truth of it all. You have to think of your life as and this is going to apply for not only a weather company, but anything in general. Life is like you're in a car and life is the winding road ahead of you. You're going to encounter potholes, and it's New Jersey after all, our roads are horrible, fender benders, all that kind of stuff. But the last thing you ever want to do is see a U-turn sign and go back to where you came from because you've already experienced that stuff, right? So you always want to continue to push off into the unknown. You have to constantly grow. You have to constantly work on yourself and evolve. The last thing you ever want to do is say, all right, I'm at a point that I'm comfortable at and I'm successful and now I'm just going to let it roll. No, you have to push yourself to the point of being uncomfortable all the time because if you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing. That's one. Two is you're going to encounter negativity in your life. It's just the way it is. There's going to be, have you been to my comment section lately? You're going to get people that tell you that your ideas are stupid or you're never going to achieve your dreams. There's a lot of negativity, but if you learn to cut that out and use that as a force for positivity and as a fuel to succeed, you're going to get there. I'm very impressed with what you do on your Maryland page. I've watched the journey from the very beginning, and you have a very good presence. And if you continue to work on yourself and your delivery and watching others in the field and how they do it, that's how I learned. You find yourself watching people every day, seeing their style, see how they explain things, and adapting your own version. The last thing you ever want to do is, all right, let's say that I like this one person, I like everything about them, but I want to do everything like that. It's flattering, but at the same time, you want to create your own identity, your own brand. So when I worked at TV40, everybody, for whatever reason, it was the wildest thing. Our chief meteorologist, Dan Skeldon, great guy, but he had these certain mannerisms. And a lot of people would call him Dippin' Dan because he would like dip in the weather forecast all the time. Well, every other meteorologist started dipping. And I'm like, why are you dipping? It makes no sense. So I was basically the only one out of the entire team that never adopted those mannerisms. I just went off in a completely different direction, and it worked for me. So be authentic, be original, and always have your audience's best interest at heart. That's why we do what we do. You know, it's about safety, it's about preparedness, it's about when you're wrong, admitting you're wrong. Because guess what? The weather, you can't hide from it. If you blow a forecast, everybody knows. You know, it's amazing to me that so many in like Philadelphia, if the forecast turns out wrong, just move on to the next day like it never happened. What do you mean it didn't happen? You spent 4 days with red graphics telling me we're all gonna friggin' die, and now it didn't happen. I'm still alive, hey. So explain it. Explain why the things didn't come together. That is how you earn respect of your audience. 17 years of doing this. I've blown my fair share of forecasts. But as long as you're upfront and transparent with people, you know, they let you slide. You're forecasting a chaotic 3D fluid at 30,000 feet in the air 5 days in the future. You're never going to be 100% right with that. And as long as you communicate that, you're going to be good.
Hi, Rena. One thing that really, well, for you particularly as well, but I really love seeing people that are passionate about what they do, and that's what made me a fan a while ago. And I'm a therapist, so this is a little therapist-y. What do you do for self-care, and as your success continues to grow, how do you plan to preserve that passion you have and love in what you do?
That's a great question. You know, I think as we talked with Teresa about, I love going to the gym. You know, exercise is very important. Every single, well, not recently because it's been so darn busy, but one of our routines most nights is ending the night with a show. And that's how I like to relax and end the day and just kind of fade away into the sofa. My husband gets mad at me all the time, though, because I could be wide awake and then 15 minutes I'm just snoring. But I love to be able to watch a show. It's like a tradition. I think it's actually kind of like a throwback. It's what my grandmother and I used to do every single night. Back when, remember when you had timed programming on TV, like your favorite show would come on Tuesday night at 9 o'clock? That really isn't a thing anymore. I know some of the like Netflix and Hulu's are getting back to that. But we like to binge watch things. So that and exercising. But going forward, I would like to step back a little bit. I will always be there in severe weather situations. And let me tell you something. And since Brittany is here, and I do it to Will, I get so involved in what I do that sometimes it can appear, and it's not the case at all, because Brittany is just a tremendous meteorologist and very, very knowledgeable, and she's worked in different climates across the country and could probably teach me stuff on it. It's not that I don't trust my people. They wouldn't be working for me if I didn't trust them. It's I love this so much. When there's a storm, I just want to do it all. Letting go and giving other people the space is something that I've had to work on. So now we finally figured out the technology to actually be able to do team coverage. So now I can be involved and have everybody else there as well. So we just did that for the first time during the blizzards. And that was a lot of fun. Will came on one day, Brittany was on another day, and you know, I think that shows a sense of cohesiveness. So as we go forward in time, I want to continue to build the business. We are rapidly going in all directions. I want to be able to do basically just the severe weather coverage, maybe like I'll always do my morning show. That's my favorite part of what I do, honestly. So maybe it's just the morning show and severe weather coverage, and then over time, everybody else does other stuff. I'm never going to leave. I I can't. It's in me to always want to do this. But to knock it down a little bit, when I started the company, I did literally everything. I worked 12-hour days. Every piece of content that went out there, it was me. But now, I hired a weekend person a few years ago. That was my first step back. And then when Brittany came on with us a few years ago, it was great because now I have somebody trusted at night and I don't have to work all that time. So, good question.
I remember, as I told you earlier, I was on Facebook, and it was before the tornadoes that hit in Mullica Hill. And I said to my husband the day before, he travels in the baseball world a lot, you should come home. There's going to be tornadoes in our area tomorrow. I have 3 kids, and my 2 daughters are here tonight. And he said, it's going to be fine. I'm listening to the other news events. You're going to be fine. Just not worry. I said, but Nor'easter Nick said we're going to have tornadoes in the area. And then I was listening to you on Facebook, and you said, head to your basements. And we all ran to the basement. And I called my husband and yelled at him and told him he was wrong. He was home the next day. But anyway, I don't know how I found you on Facebook. And I really, you just appeared on my page, and I just found you interesting, and I started following you. But what made you go the social media route instead of watching you on one of the news channels?
So that's a wonderful question. If you asked me where I wanted to be at the start of my career, I would have told you, 6ABC. That is the premier news program in the area. And I worked towards that. Fast forward all these years, COVID really changed everything. It changed the face of media. You look at the analytics, you look at the Nielsen ratings, TV is not going to exist as it does even today in 5 years from now. It's a dying medium, TV news at least, because where do you get your information from? From TikTok, from Instagram, from Facebook. It's right here. By the time you get the story on the newscast, it's old news. Like, what's the point of watching? So advertisers are seeing this, and they are investing their money in digital platforms instead and pulling way back. So TV stations are going through budget cuts and all kinds of things. There's a couple well-known people, I won't name them, but they were making $1 million a year, and they got cut to $750,000. I don't know how they're going to live, but it's horrible. I think we should just take up a fund for them. But no, you're never going to get that type of pay ever again in media because the money is drying up. So I decided, after my last TV station closed, I'm going to start my own company and do it myself. And providing a hyper-local resource that people feel connected to, that's the winning strategy. It's not there's no secret sauce to it. We can do traditional weather broadcasting on a non-linear platform, and that is what has worked for us. And now, over the next year or so, we're going to expand and take over North Jersey with somebody pretty well known that's going to come onto our team. Hurricane Schwartz is joining us for climate segments. I'm in talks with a couple other well-known Philly people that we could bring onto our platform as well. So I think we're pretty much becoming the glue now that is going to piece together a bunch of different things.
I just wanted to tell you that I was a Weather Channel junkie. I love to watch their coverage of the severe weather.
Sure.
And I went the route of cable is too much, I'm going to start streaming. And it was a withdrawal from the Weather Channel. I don't know how I found you.
Seems to be a common story. I just pop up on people's feeds.
I spent 5 years working with 6ABC as a videographer, and I loved my job.
Sure.
But what I like more is when people explain what is happening.
Sure.
And I think that's why I like to follow you, because you don't just give us the weather in 3 minutes. You take the time to explain why. And that is what makes a good educator. And I appreciate what you do and how much you sacrifice with all the time that you put in to putting out the correct forecast. And I'm glad we have someone that's local, but also someone that's extremely knowledgeable. And I thank you for your time.
Well, thank you. I'll respond to that, and then I'll wrap it up. It's an honor to do this because the words that we put out there have weight. And there's a lot of weather enthusiasts out there, people that don't necessarily do it professionally but have large followings, that recklessly say things. There are parody pages that people don't know if it's serious information or not. And social media is a gift and a curse. It's a gift because of all that nonsense, or a curse because of that. It's a gift because I can instantly connect to thousands and thousands of people and get vital information out there. My least favorite thing in TV was just that. I had 3 minutes on a severe weather day to explain all of this stuff and get tomorrow, the next day, and the 7-day all in there. Now we have no constraints. That's why I love the morning show, because that sets the tone for the day. There are days that I go on for a half hour just talking about the science behind it. And you look at the analytics, 90% of people stay on the entire time, which is crazy to me because you look at regular videos and the average watch time is like 10 seconds. But with these lives, people are there from start to finish. So yeah, we're going to continue to do that, and I appreciate you following. And I'm just going to end with this. Every single one of you is like an extended family member to me. This all started as a dream, as a 6-year-old kid, and almost 30 years later, I'm standing here in a position that, statistically speaking, I shouldn't be here in this capacity. I wouldn't be where I am if it weren't for each and every single one of you. And I will never forget where I came from. And I'll never forget the love and support that this community gives us. And it's appreciated. You make hyper-local weather in New Jersey possible. And you're all special to me. And thank you for showing up and getting the book and all that kind of stuff. Have a great night, everybody.
Before we go, Aurora Healing Crew, take a deep breath like you're soaking in sunlight. Warm, steady, grounding. As you move through your day, check in with your gut. Notice how you feel around others. Your energy is precious. Protect it so you have the strength and light to do what really matters to you. Because life is hard, and we're getting through it together. Thank you for listening to the Aurora Sessions Beyond the Couch. Visit our website at aurorasuncounseling.com to learn more. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Just search Aurora Sun Counseling. Got questions or topics you'd love to hear us cover? Email us at info@aurorasuncounseling.com or drop a comment. We'd love to hear from you.